Welcome to Ben Franklin's World, a podcast about early American history with Liz Covart. The study of history is key to understanding who we are and how we can affect a better future. Ben Franklin's World will introduce you to historical people and events that have impacted and shaped our present-day world. And now, here's your host, Liz Covart.
Hello, and welcome to Episode 2 of Ben Franklin's World, the podcast dedicated to helping you learn more about how the people and events of our early American past have shaped the present-day world we live in. Each week, we sit down with an historian to discuss their unique insights into our early American past so we can learn more about who we are and how we can affect a better future. Today's episode is the second part in our three-part Ben Franklin's World Launch Spectacular series. Today we chat with Cornelia King, Chief of Reference at the Library Company of Philadelphia. Connie discusses the Library Company of Philadelphia's latest exhibition, That's So Gay, Outing Early America. Now, throughout the year, the Library Company offers many exhibitions, lectures, and gallery talks to help it fulfill its mission to foster scholarship in and increase public awareness about American history before 1900. In this episode, Connie is going to tell us about how the Library Company staff decides what types of exhibitions to display in its exhibition halls in Philadelphia, how the Library Company exhibition curators determine what types of artifacts to display in their exhibitions and how to interpret those as well. And Connie also discusses the Library Company's present exhibit, That's So Gay, Outing Early America. So we'll learn more about the history gay men and women played in our early American past. Okay, so the second episode of Ben Franklin's World Launch Spectacular begins right now.
With tidings and wisdom to share about our early American past, here is this week's special guest.
Today we welcome Cornelia King, the Chief of Reference at the Library Company of Philadelphia. Connie has worked in the field of rare book librarianship since 1978, and she has worked at the Library Company since 2000. Her book-length bibliographies, American Education, 1662 to 1860, and American Philanthropy, 1731 to 1860, helped establish the Library Company as a center for the study of social history. You can typically find Connie at work in the Library Company's main reading room, where she has the curatorial responsibility for women's history. Welcome to Ben Franklin's World, Connie.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And we're happy to have you. Now, the Chief of Reference sounds like a very important job title. Would you tell us a little bit about the work you do for the Library Company and what your responsibilities as Chief of Reference entail?
Well, the Library Company has a big collection, but quite a small staff. So as Chief of Reference, I'm likely to start my day rebooting the router for the Wi-Fi, or maybe scanning a document to send to another library for interlibrary loan, or even running an envelope through the postage meter. But mainly I work with our readers, and the multifaceted aspect of all our jobs here is actually a bonus for them. The Library Company is one of the only libraries I know where the person who's going to be bringing you material in the reading room also has some curatorial responsibility for a part of the collection. So I get to do so many things. I get to acquire material for the collection in the area of women's history. I get to catalog it and then bring it to the attention to people doing research in our reading room or include it in exhibitions. But if I'm not the go-to person for the topic, I can also call another staff member who would be better for that. So there's a lot of sort of collegial stuff that goes on at the Library Company that I think makes it a really good place to be.
Wow, you have to know how to do a lot of things, as well as know a lot about your collections to work in your position. But it sounds like a really interesting job that keeps you on your toes.
Oh, it's a great place to be, either as a researcher or as a staff member, I hope.
Now, you said that part of your responsibility is putting on the exhibitions about early American history. How many exhibitions does the Library Company present each year, and what kinds of exhibitions does it display?
Well, we have a main gallery, and those exhibitions change about once about twice a year, and they take more than a year to prepare. But we also have smaller spaces in the building, and they change much more often. We change them for conferences, for events that we hold. And in addition to that, there are exhibitions that are online only. And that's a great way to publicize material in the collections that wouldn't necessarily fill a gallery. And you asked what kinds of exhibitions. Well, here our mission is to increase public understanding of American history. And we've been very interested in developing shows that have resonance for people. For example, the huge amount of public discourse in the 18th and 19th century around alcohol consumption was very different in obvious ways when you think about the temperance movement. But the topic itself is still very current. And I'm told that our online exhibition about the temperance movement is the one that still gets the most hits on our website. We also see a lot of interest in our exhibitions on economy and society. We think of the American ideal of upward mobility through taking initiative and hard work as something we believe in as Americans. But we know that there are always winners and losers, and I think that's a topic that a lot of our exhibitions have visited and revisited thanks to our economy and society program. And I guess if I were going to say a third area, I'd say the promise of cutting-edge technology has resonance. We look at the development of lithography and photography and other printing arts in the 19th century and see the same interest in innovation that's still a dominant theme now. I think it's a way of connecting with people to have these exhibitions, and I think it's very helpful to keep thinking about why we do what we do.
So the strength of the library company's collections help you determine what sorts of exhibits to put on.
Yes, indeed. We have developed exhibitions around our collection of African Americana, and for a lot of people, that's what they know about us, that we have a remarkably strong collection. In fact, our next exhibition will be Genius of Freedom, about Reconstruction in the northern states after the Civil War. And it opens after the one we have now comes down in November 2014.
And your current exhibit, it's called That's So Gay. Could you tell us a little bit more about that exhibit and what kind of prep work goes into one of these big exhibits or exhibitions?
Well, I knew I wanted to answer the question, how can you know? I mean, that was the big question. How can you know that you're looking at gay history? How do you study gay history before there were words like lesbian, gay, bi, or transgender, especially as labels with their current meaning? And as the curator, I think of myself as the curator of the questions rather than curator of the answers, and let me explain. I wanted to show with materials in our collection that same-sex relationships often have flourished, both ones between actual people and also ones that were written about in novels and poetry. For example, 19th century schoolgirls are often described as having smashes on other girls. And in novels, you often see relationships that are close between men, as described as David and Jonathan relationships, alluding to the biblical figures who chose to be friends rather than enemies. And a lot of people know about Walt Whitman and the fact that some of his poems in Leaves of Grass celebrate the love of comrades. And Harriet Hosmer, a 19th century woman sculptor, lived in a household of women, and they called themselves the Jolly Bachelors. So even though we don't have the current words that you see to describe LGBT individuals, you've got a lot of other language. And ideally, the big question that the show poses is there an identifiably gay culture, as scholars such as David Halpern have suggested? Or with full equal rights, will having a gay cultural identity just fade away, having outlived its usefulness? But whatever the answer to that question, and I think it's one that where there isn't an answer, there are a lot of answers. I think the exhibition shows material that is very different from the present in obvious ways. And for me, that dramatizes the potential for social change. But I feel like that's me on my soapbox, and I try not to push too much, because I just think I want to show how easy it is to locate material.
So the exhibition, it investigates and presents gay history. It's more presenting the questions and allowing the viewers to judge for themselves the answers.
I think of it that way, for sure, because people often come into exhibitions with the question, is it the same as it is today, or is it different? And I think that's a start of the kind of thinking I would like people to go away with.
And what inspired the library company to present such a exhibition? It seems rather novel to have something on gay history. I haven't seen an exhibition like that.
Oh, well, I'd like to say we had our finger on the pulse of the gay marriage debates. But frankly, we got crazy lucky. We knew that 2015 would mark the 50th anniversary of gay activism in Philadelphia, because in 1965 there was the first protest for gay rights at Independence Hall. And we wanted to do the prequel for the exhibition that will happen in 2015. Around the corner from us, we have the Lgbt Community Center. And frankly, we're right in the middle of what Philadelphia calls its gayborhood. So it made a lot of sense for us to be involved and tell the prehistory for the 20th century gay experience that culminated in gay activism in the latter part of that period.
Now, I am fortunate. I was in Philadelphia last month in July of 2014, and I had a chance to view That's So Gay. And I noticed that you had this interesting quote up there by late gay activist Henry Hay, who lived between 1912 and the year 2000. And it stated something to the effect of, history knows more about gay people than it knows it knows. And I'm wondering if you could talk about how the library company used that question to frame its exhibit and to investigate what Hay meant by that.
Oh, well, I sort of cheated. I paraphrased Harry Hay a little for our publicity. He is quoted as having said, history knows more about gay men than it knows. But I suspect he wouldn't mind that I changed it to gay people. History knows more about gay people. What I wanted to do in our gallery was to show a whole lot of material. I think I said that initially. My subtitle for the show, the first one that we didn't go with, is The Not So Hidden History of Gayness in Early American Culture. But I really wanted to show that it's not hard to find. We have 101 items in the gallery, and it's a rather small space. And I even had to leave a lot of interesting things out. But I simply wanted to make the point that locating research-worthy material is not at all hard, which is what I think Harry Hay meant.
And now, because we have you on the line, and you've mentioned that you had to leave some interesting things out, could you give us a sneak preview of behind the scenes of some of the interesting artifacts you did have to leave out of the exhibit?
Oh, well, I mentioned the David and Jonathan relationships. I had to leave out all the novels because, frankly, there are so many. I knew I wanted to include Moby Dick with open to the scene where Ishmael and Queequeg are on board ship as a cozy, loving pair. I knew I wanted to choose a lot of literature that was either familiar to people or by well-known authors, and a lot of the books that we have that are novels aren't so well known, and the ones that happen to mention the David and Jonathan relationship between men just had to be left out for lack of space. And the thing I want to say about that is we're very lucky here at the Library Company. We have a first edition of The Leaves of Grass. We have a first edition of Moby Dick. We have a lot of other very important books that are still in the canon of literature that's studied in school. But we also have many other books because we have had a continuous existence here at the Library Company since 1731, and we bought novels when they were published. And that means we have the ones that are well known today and a lot of others that aren't. And so it's just a wonderful place to do research because you can see the whole record of what was in print for a given period if that's what you're studying.
Now I'm just going to depart. I do really want to talk about That's So Gay just a little bit more, but your voice sounded very passionate when you were talking about the different novels and books that the Library Company has in its possession. Do you have a particular favorite?
In the exhibition?
Or just in general?
Or generally? Well, actually, as curator of women's history, I like to take some of these people who are little known today, like Frances Willard, who was the president of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, and sort of revive her. You know, she was as well known as Eleanor Roosevelt would be in the 1930s, but very few people know about her today. So I think for me, I like to make sure that the women who were enormously well known in their time and have become little known over the 20th century get reinstated with their previous due from the public. And again, that's part of my role as the curator of women's history here. And I think I have a special enthusiasm for that.
You definitely sound you definitely sound passionate about it. So I'm glad you were able to tell us a little bit more about Frances Willard, just to give us a sneak peek of what the Library Company has in its holdings. But if we could return now to That's So Gay, I know the exhibition runs through October 17, 2014, but I also happen to notice that the Library Company has a digital version of the exhibition online at gay@lcp.org. For those who cannot make it to Philadelphia by October 17th, how closely does the digital exhibition resemble the exhibition on display at the Library Company? And will that digital exhibition continue to be available online?
Well, that is a blog. The gay@lcp.org is a blog that we created, and it includes only a small fraction of the items in the exhibition. We started it even before the exhibition opened last Valentine's Day in order to get the word out. And to start bringing up people like Frances Willard and her special relationships with other women. I wanted to encourage people to join in the discussion of the ideas in the exhibition, and I wanted them to be able to give us feedback and suggest leads to other sources, and that will definitely either become bigger or be replaced by a fuller version of the exhibition.
That sounds great. Very interesting. And if we want to keep tabs on the Genius of Freedom and your other future exhibitions, where's the best place to find out more information about the Library's Company's exhibitions, gallery talks, and history lectures?
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to mention our website. It's www.librarycompany.org, and Library Company is all spelled out together with no punctuation between it. If you want us to contact you about exhibitions and events, do sign up for the mailing list.
That sounds great. Well, Connie, thank you so much for speaking to us today. We've enjoyed chatting with you, and we wish you the best of luck on your work and your future exhibitions. And thank you for joining us on Ben Franklin's World.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
I don't know about you, but thanks to Connie, I have a better idea about how museums and institutions go about deciding what types of exhibits and exhibitions to put on. I also love that curators like Connie set to pose questions with their exhibitions rather than give answers. I suppose that's because I'm a historian, so I love reading all the evidence, seeing it all, and making up my own mind. What about you? Now, you can find information about Connie, plus notes about what we talked about today, on the show notes page for this episode, which you'll find at benfranklinsworld.com/002. You'll also find information on benfranklinsworld.com about the other 2 episodes in the Ben Franklin's World Launch Spectacular series. In episode 1, we converse with James N. Green, librarian at the Library Company of Philadelphia. Jim shares information about the history of the Library Company and about Ben Franklin's role in establishing the institution. If you love libraries, this show is a must, because Jim talks about how Ben Franklin's organization of the Library Company led to ideas and models that present-day libraries that we use today use. So it's a very practical episode as well. And in the finale, in episode 3 of our Launch Spectacular series, we'll speak with Richard S. Newman, director of the Library Company. In episode 3, Rich shares information about the past and present efforts of the Library Company to serve the public at large. And as the Library Company has existed for over 283 years, it's a very interesting conversation that I hope you'll check out. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends about us. We're not going to be on iTunes or Stitcher till December, so please send them to benfranklinsworld.com, where they'll discover more information about the show and be able to download all of our episodes. And finally, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about the show, or what I can do to improve it, please reach out. You can email me at liz@benfranklinsworld.com or send me a tweet. I'm pretty active over there on Twitter, and my handle is @LizCovart.
And remember, never leave till tomorrow that which you can do today.